What's a Precision podcast may contain adult themes, sexual discussions, and strong language. We want everyone to be educated, but we are intended for a mature audience. Listener discretion is advised. On today's episode, we have Ally Iseman, non-monogamy educator and practitioner. You guys want to hear a joke?
Always want to hear a joke.
What is the difference between a casual dinner party and a pirate orgy?
Casual dinner party and a pirate orgy.
This is courtesy of our friend Robert Madrid.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay,
From
shout out.
TikTok.
I don't know.
In the first, you come as you are, and in the second, you are as you come.
God, Jesus
And now,
Christ.
with love from Huntington Beach, your host, Ashley Weller.
Welcome, fellow humans, to another episode of Full Frontal of What's Your Position podcast. And we are joined today by none other than Ally Iseman. So I wanted to give the listener a little bit of background on our guest today. She is an incredible human being, a self-made woman. She's a gifted speaker, a community organizer, a writer. As Mia said, a non-monogamy educator and practitioner. She has extensive knowledge on how to open up your relationship in a kind, ethical, and consensual way. And she has created an incredibly safe space where you can gain insight into your relationship blueprint and be intimately and privately coached with her. She has a guide called Passport to Pleasure. And she also sits on the board of one of LA's most elite sensual play spaces and absolutely loves nerding out about all things ethical non-monogamy. She has been featured in Cosmo, The Guardian, Well and Good, and has been on numerous podcasts, including our friends over at Double Teamed. Shout out to Double Teamed. Ayo. Welcome, Ally. We are so happy that you are here with us today.
Yar.
Thank you. And I already love you.
Was holding on that one.
Very nice.
So I have to give a shout out really quick to husband Kevin Weller, who has been promoted. He got a promotion today, by the way.
Woo! Congratulations.
Yeah, he did. He got a promotion from sound guy to marketing exec. So he
Yeah.
is now the chief marketing officer of What's Your
Marketing,
Position.
recruiting.
very fancy.
It's
Yeah.
very fancy. Yeah, he got a kiss as a present. I know, right?
Thank you.
What did HR have to say about that?
We're fine.
We're not.
Okay,
We're not telling them.
Because he came across your Instagram and stalked you and then sent it to me and was like, you should see if she wants to be. And you know what's funny is I have like the most ridiculous imposter syndrome because I'm like, every time he sends me someone, I go to their page and I'm like, no, they have so many followers. There's no way they're going to write to me. Like, I'm going to send them a message and then I'm just going to be heartbroken that they're never going to talk to me. And you right away were like, yes, let's do this. Like, let's go. Like, I can't freaking wait. So thank you for your time today. You drove all the way here because we do love an in-person podcast.
Dude,
Thank you so
I'm
much.
such a I am all about like the 3D or 5D depending where we go today. But yeah, I definitely prefer in person as well.
For sure. The energy is just totally different. And also we have these really cute signs and nobody ever gets to fucking see them on it.
Doesn't love a
I know,
neon.
right?
Like, come on.
Hello,
Did you custom? This is great.
Custom to stay sexy for sure, but the
Super
other
cute.
two I just found on Amazon.
You can see
And
them on our
I was
Instagram.
like, you can go to our
Yep.
Instagram and check out our neon signs.
I think I
there.
need to lower them so
Yeah,
they're like
in
right
frame.
behind.
Yeah, reframe.
Yeah.
Do that.
forget
Now
that.
you're going to be props man too.
I know, but we bought these and did this before we got the cameras.
That's
and so
facts.
now when we,
Yeah.
I'm like, and I had to use like
Fishing
fishing line,
Yeah.
and it took fucking
Fuck it.
hours.
It was
And I was like,
ridiculous.
oh God,
Felt
I'm
real
gonna
bad.
move it again.
Anyways,
yeah, but it's fun.
today we are talking about ethical
Sidetrack.
non-monogamy. We are talking to Ally because you actually have something that I think a lot of people will be really interested in, especially individuals who maybe are toying with the idea of entering the sphere of opening their relationship or have thought about swinging or bringing in a third or really fully opening and embracing the lifestyle of ethical non-monogamy. And you have a website where you personally guide people down the path of opening their relationship, helping them understand the why, the how, the minutia of each individual thing, and really personalizing and tailoring every single couple's journey to their blueprint. I just think that that is so unique and so beautiful. Can you tell us what on earth took you to such a specific place in your life that you decided to custom make ethically non-monogamy roadmaps for individual couples?
Thank you. It's been a journey.
Anything worth doing should be a journey.
I mean, honestly, if you had told me like we'd be sitting here talking about this because of what I'm doing right now in such a public, format, I would have not believed you.
Yeah.
For me, it was very much a personal journey at the beginning. And just my nature is when I discover something that I'm interested in or something that feels like very real for me, I dive all the way in. Like you said, I nerd out. Like I read everything that there was to read. I tried to find as many resources as I could. And the thing is,
which, by the way, listener, there's not a lot.
There's some now. There were none in 2016. I mean, that's not fair. Some people have been doing, but the accessibility of those resources was very limited is more what I'm saying. So all that to say, it's been, 8-9 years now for me personally. I, dove headfirst into the sex positive scene in Los Angeles, educating myself, exploring different relationship dynamics, and just, really living into it. But it wasn't a professional endeavor in that sense. I did find myself in the role where people, primarily couples, would come to me for advice and guidance because I am, like you mentioned, I am in a leadership position within the community here. And so I loved doing that. But it didn't, for years, it didn't strike me that like, oh, this is a thing that can be done. Like this is actually
a space that you can occupy.
And for me, it's even more about, we have the incredible accessibility of the internet. So to be able to offer these services and my experience, my knowledge, all the resources that I have to more people at a wider scale in various different ways. Because not everyone can work with me, directly. If you're not within my network here, how do I know you? How do you reach me? Internets.
Yeah.
Yep.
The interwebs.
The interwebs.
Oh, we love the interwebs.
And so just creating all the different resources, having, courses available for people who would rather approach the subject matter that way or a deeper dive with me individually. I am coaching some other coaches to be able to reach more people because I'm one person. I wish I could scale myself, but I wish there were 3 of me most days, but that is not the case.
It's very multiplicity of you.
Yes. So all that to say, it's growing. It's still, in this incarnation, in a sense, it's in its infancy in that I just launched Passport to Pleasure in January. It is work that I've been doing. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Wow. That must have felt so fucking good.
It felt all of the things. It was like, oh God. Okay. And then now we're beginning. It was, although it took me probably about 5-6 months to really gather everything, get the brand, build it all. And
hearing you say that makes me feel so much better. I'm working on a website for our podcast and I feel like an absolute fucking loser because I can't get it done. Like I have a company doing it for me and they keep sending me emails and they're like, what do you think about this? And I'm like, I don't have time to look at that. I don't fucking know what to do. Just do the things and make the things. But it's taken me like 4 months. So to hear that it took you 6 months makes me just feel a fucking ton.
Well, and I'm sitting here envious. You have a team. It's just me going cross-eyed.
Well, actually, shout out to my brother-in-law, Aaron, who will never hear this. But he is an incredible human being who runs a lot of different businesses. And he offered me his services to start my website. So I wouldn't have done it without him. But
amazing.
It's an endeavor for sure to create a platform and a space that you're proud of, that people can go to, that they can take these amazing worksheets. Love a worksheet. And talk to you about their non-monogamy. So let's for the novice listener. Now, listener, I love you. I love you so much. I want you to go back, if you have not, and listen to the 2-part episode with Justin Lay Miller that we did in season 3, where we break down different types of ethical non-monogamy in detail, because that is where you're going to get a framework for what we are talking about today. But if you're not going to do that because for whatever reason you hate me, I'm going to tell you a little bit about ethical non-monogamy. There are so many facets to ethical non-monogamy. One can be polyamorous. One could be just into swinging. I've actually heard a wonderful phrase from Dr. Tara, somebody that we both know, monogamish, where you really just engage in sexual play and only very rarely, and not really engaging in any sort of the relationship aspects of ethical non-monogamy. You can have a triad couple. You can have a quad couple. You can raise children in a polyamorous sphere. We talked to Dr. Jolie Hamilton, who is married and has children and is polyamorous, and that's a really beautiful thing. But when you work with couples, what are you seeing more often? Are you seeing people right now who are just trying to dip their toe in it and want to go to play parties? Are you seeing more opening up to having relationships outside of their long-term partner? Or are you seeing more of like a swinger setting where it's just basically revolves around the sexual aspect of it? What do you see most often?
The short answer is yes.
Nice. Okay. All right.
I would say how I position myself is I want to help you.
We do love a position here.
We do love a position. I gotta say, I am such a slut for a good pun, and your title is just so good.
Thank you.
Is it a political pundit conversation? Is it we'll find out. Maybe it's both.
Oh my God. So hi, you just had out loud the conversation in my head when I created the title. So thank you again for the fucking validation.
My pleasure. My pleasure. But yeah, like I say, I help people open up without blowing up. So it is a lot of couples generally who are looking to spice things up, looking to satisfy some curiosities. And they either have already tried and it's blown up and they need some guidance, or they're curious too, but they're in that framework that we're all taught of, like, you can't, have that relationship security and that excitement and novelty.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's bullshit.
Yeah.
Total bullshit. We live
Totally
in
agree.
such a mononormative, hetero, like
Sex negative.
Sex negative, yeah.
all about monogamy,
Shame.
all about shame, all about this one person has to do all of these things for you. They have to be, I was just talking to my class about this. They have to be your lover. They have to be your bank accountant. They have to be your tax guy. They have to be your car mechanic. They have to be your chef. They have to be your maid. They have to be your babysitter. They have to be, we are placing so much burden on our partner. Not just that, as human beings, polyamory and exploring other people is something that was the norm for
that's our history.
That's our history.
Yeah.
Actually, monogamy is really fucking new.
About 5,000-10,000 years.
Yeah.
And if you look in the animal kingdom, there's very few species.
Very few.
Yeah.
And actually, a lot of societies aren't monogamous in our
Even still,
world.
yeah.
Even still. And it there's a lot that speaks to like community and bonding and really having intimate relationships with other people that you can feel safe in, and not just depending on this one person to be your everything. What to you is the benefits of ethical non-monogamy? How do you present that to your clients?
So much. And I always start with, regardless of whatever relationship dynamic we land on as what I call your ideal relationship structure, the friendly IRS. All of these skills, all of these tools you're going to learn along an expansive relationship model. That's what I teach. Is beneficial regardless, whether you're monogamous, non-monogamous, what have you. I also want to point out that I am probably the only non-monogamy nerd that you've talked to who actually doesn't like the terminology non-monogamy or alternative relationship dynamics.
Oh, what do you like instead?
So the reason I say that is non-monogamy infers that monogamy is the norm. Alternative
that's a good
relationships
point.
Oh, I never thought
infers
about it
that's
like that.
Yeah.
and
right?
it's just not the case. It's relationship dynamics. It's just a larger conversation about relationship dynamics. So that's why you'll hear me use the term expansive relationship dynamics. Because again, whether you decide your structure is monogamy or something else, it will serve you. You can have an open or closed monogamous relationship.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You can still be monogamous in an open monogamous relationship. You're right. And I love changing my verbiage and my vernacular. So thank you. That's actually, and it's funny, as a sex educator and someone in the sex positive community, how fucking often do things change? My God.
Yeah.
How frequently I have to change my language is, I learn every day when I research, when I interview a guest. And that right there is a perfect example of hearing something that I have said for the past 10 years and going, oh, fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Language is a shorthand. It's a conversation starter, quite literally. Labels,
Yeah.
We got to get specific about what exactly that means, and that's why I like to work with people to really drill down on exactly what their relationship structure is going to be, because there are specifics. It can't, not everything is gray area all the time. You do have to define boundaries and things like that. But recognizing that boundaries aren't these like firm walls that are immovable, right? Boundaries are actually the edges of our comfort zone. They're designed to be pushed consensually, safely,
True.
so that we can grow, because there's a big difference between being uncomfortable and being unsafe.
Yeah.
So when we make those definitions, we're able to kind of expand intelligently and expand intentionally.
And I think a lot of people who are maybe listening or who have heard some episodes before think about, expansive relationship dynamics. Did I say it right?
Yeah, it's great.
Great, perfect. Who think about expansive relationship dynamics and get scared because their boundary is, I can't do that. I'm married. I'm
the assumptions.
married.
Yeah.
And it no one's asking you to get divorced. No one is asking you to cheat on your partner. What we're saying is that we are consensually and with the knowledge of everyone involved having love in plural, like connection in plural, depth in multitudes. We are connecting with other human beings to help fill our cup in other ways. And for some people, it's just about sex. For some people, it's about sex and friendship. For some people, it's about desire and what someone desires about you, what one partner desires about you and what another partner desires about you. And they're two completely different things. Do you meet with all variations of sexual orientation, or do you find that you get mainly heterosexual couples that come to you?
I'd say primarily it's generally cishet monogamous partnerships that are looking to step into and open up. But, as a queer woman myself, I love to connect with everyone on the rainbow. But, there's a nature of specialization that is impactful to really dial in on like, who can I help the most effectively, most immediately. And as a leader in the sex positive space, what I've seen so much over the last, especially I would say 2 or 3 years, really since quarantine, is so many couples flooding the space with no resourcing.
No.
Yeah.
And blowing their relationships up and hurting the person that they love most in the world and themselves, and quite frankly impacting my community. So for me, launching this was really about,
frankly, fucking up my world.
Yeah.
Knock it off.
you're crushing the vibe in not a fun way. No, but it's what I saw was curiosity, desire, and action without preparation.
Right.
So I was like, what can I do to fill that gap and help people step into this space while also maintaining the integrity of my community?
Yeah, and it's not just like
Not
if you're like, oh, we're interested in swinging, that you're like, okay, well, let's go on a dating site and just find somebody.
You know what? I want to learn how to swim. I'm going to dive into the Pacific Ocean.
Right,
What
exactly.
The fuck?
I'm gonna jump off the Huntington Beach Pier.
Right.
How
That sounds
about
like
take
a
some
plan.
lessons?
Yeah, right,
maybe.
exactly.
Start in the shallow
Read
end
a
of the
book.
fucking pool.
Yeah.
So non-monogamy or ethical, God damn it, relationship dyads have been around for since the dawn of fucking time. And typically they were built not just because that was the way, the norm, the truth, the life, but also out of necessity. It was necessary for you to have multiple partners helping with whatever the agriculture was happening at the time, raising children, moving, especially in nomadic societies, moving, and also they didn't live very fucking long. So having multiple spouses was a widespread and accepted thing. In addition, countries that are more open and accepting of relationship, say it again.
Expansive relationship dynamic.
Expansive relationship dynamics. It's gonna happen.
You're gonna get
it.
Mouthful.
I keep trying to say non-monogamy. I want to pinch myself.
That you can also use that. It is a term people are familiar with now, thankfully.
That's fair. But the countries, I did some research, that are more accepting of ethical non-monogamy are actually more sexually satisfied. So Americans,
I can see that.
Americans are sexually fucking traumatized.
Yeah, we're
like we've got
repressed.
some serious trauma going on
Full
with sex.
on.
Like I don't know who the fuck fucked up, but
Well, it's the religious institution.
oh yeah,
And-
oh it's hands down, it's
it all
religion.
has to
It's
do
all
with-
religion.
Oh, yeah.
All of it. Hail Satan.
yeah.
Studies actually show that the more sexually positive a country is, the better off their residents are, not only financially. Weirdly enough, that links up, but also
No,
Not weirdly at all. We can go into that if you want.
that's what I was going to do, is go into that with you, because I know that you have 6 principles that you go by on your website, and I wanted you to break those down for me. But first, I'm going to get to my stat of the day. Studies show that people in other countries have up to 70 times more sex than Americans.
Wow.
70 times more.
Wait, I got something for
You
that.
do. I need you to give me it. Yeah. That's an appropriate place for that.
Yeah.
Indeed, Americans, when surveyed, say that they are only sexually satisfied at 48%. 48% of Americans say that they are sexually satisfied. In Spain,
I can't see it.
gee, don't.
I can't see your computer screen
She's
from
a
here.
cheater. I'm just
Spain,
kidding.
which is one of the most open, oddly enough, even though they've got a lot of Catholicism going on in there,
Yeah.
they are one of the most sexually satisfied countries. What percentage of Spanish people, when surveyed, said that they were sexually satisfied? And we are going to start with our guest.
Oh my God, I love a stat. I
know you
should
do.
know this. I should know this.
No, I pull the most random one because I love random stats and I try to trip everyone
She's
up.
doing a little trickery.
I do some.
She doesn't want anybody to get it.
I know. I
I
want
want
to
to
really
be
mad when people get it right.
like I hope it's higher, but I just want to be cheeky and say 69%.
Yeah. We love cheeky.
Yeah.
69% coming from Ally. Husband Kevin Weller. What percentage of Spanish people, when surveyed, said that they were sexually satisfied?
Well, I got to go higher then. But I was going to say 75.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mia Krum.
Gosh, I don't
Almost
know.
a literal spit take.
It's Dutch.
Yeah, it is. I'm gonna say maybe 73%.
Oh, you're going
Ooh,
right.
oh,
We're
right-
right in
this little pocket.
Yeah, right?
Sandwich.
Okay, we're all in the same spot.
Okay. All right. We're going to talk about that at the end. Listener, please guess and come back. Make sure you follow up and listen to the entire episode so you can get the answer to this. Can you tell me about your 6 principles that you have listed on your website?
Oh my God, I should have them memorized, shouldn't I?
I can pull it the fuck
Please
up for
do.
you. I absolutely will.
The foundational one for me is really the overarching mission behind why I do this, why I believe in this, and why I offer it as a service, not just in my personal life. Because I believe if we all had better relationships that lasted longer, we'd have a better world that lasts longer.
So
Yeah.
one of my favorite principles that you have listed on your website is that if our leaders were fucked more, we would fucked.
I've heard that
We would be
before.
fucked less.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. If everybody was fucking more,
Yeah.
And
No.
and
The
I mean,
world would be
it's a
less
cheeky, it's a fun, turn of phrase, and it includes more authentic relationships,
Yeah.
right? Like you mentioned the term monogamish, which actually Dan Savage coined it initially, and he just came out with a new term this year, polyamory, so tolerant of knowing your partners, is enjoying extracurricular activities, not acknowledging it at all, but tolerating it.
Okay.
You'll see that in
Kind of
royal
don't ask,
families.
don't tell
and-
sort of a thing.
yeah, in a sense. And I think that it's such a shame. It's such a shame because there are so many people in the public eye, our leadership, etc., who are served by these relationship dynamics, but they have to hide and be, deceitful and all this stuff because, the public will judge them or they don't have the skills and tools to open it up in their relationship, whatever it is. There's so much fear and judgment that we are piling onto our leadership, and we expect that is somehow beneficial to us in some way.
Not only that, they're doing it in ways that are so, in some cases, shady and like, I mean, we had a president who got a blowjob in the Oval Office, and it's like we impeached him for it, and then we just recently had a president. I don't know if I would call him that, but we just recently had someone who occupied the White House who was very orange. And he had so many affairs prior to marrying, and probably did during his time in presidency. Who the fuck knows? And we vilify because a lot of times they vilify themselves in the ways that they go about taking on these extracurricular activities. And instead of doing so in a space that is about love, about connection, about desire, they do so in ways that are about like power and control. And they don't know how else to do
Well,
things.
exactly. What do we expect, right? We don't teach any relationship skills. We have a one size fits all. This is it. And if it doesn't work for you, you're the problem. Figure it out. So we're going to heap shame on you. And now you're in the public eye. So you're basically in a glass cage. So everything you do is under a microscope, and you don't have any of the skills that anyone else, none of us are dealing with. And you're doing what, quite frankly, 43% of the population is doing. Just publicly.
One third of the population. One third of the population engages in some form of relationship. Say it again.
Oh, I see. You're talking. There's two. So 43% infidelity is what I'm referring to. One third of the population has been or is currently engaged in a non-monogamous, consensually non-monogamous, specifically, consensually non-monogamous dynamic.
And when we talk about that 43% of people who have been involved in infidelity,
reporting,
that's what I was going to say. It is not accurate.
I think it's probably be higher.
Let's be clear too. And we were talking earlier about language, right? So a word like cheating, there's a lot of assumptions that, if we're married, I'm going to assume that the word cheating means the same thing to you as it does to me. And we'll never talk about it. And quite often that's something I find with the couples that work with me is there actually can be a different definition. One of them will think that they've been in complete integrity. And the other one is like, oh my God, you have deceived me. You have broken our agreements. But there was no actual broken
and some
down
people
agreement.
Are like, porn is
exactly
cheating.
So then be clear.
Did you just play a porn song right now?
Yeah, it's the Pornhub intro.
That's the Pornhub intro? Fantastic. No, absolutely. There are, I actually take a survey of my students in class and I ask them, do you think watching porn is cheating? And a lot of them say yes. Using sex toys is cheating. I had a boyfriend before I met this hunk of a man who wouldn't let me have a sex toy because he said it was cheating. And one of the first dates husband Kevin Weller took me on was to buy me a dildo. Because
that was our very first date. No, I'm just kidding. That wasn't our first date.
One of them.
I took you out to dinner first. And then I took you to Con and Revolution.
So let's not get dessert here.
He wined down 69 to me. So, but I think that we don't have, like you're saying, enough language, and we don't talk about ahead of time. Look, if you text other people like intimate things, that's cheating. If you watch,
define it.
Right. If you watch porn, that's cheating. I'm sorry, I don't agree with you in any way, shape, or form, but that could be cheating to some people who maybe aren't educated as far as what sexual desire looks like and how often an individual wants to engage in sexual activity. And my God, it's so true when you think about why people may want to open up their relationship but are so scared,
so terrified, because we conflate too with that lack of language and discussion. We merge ideas into one, right? We go sex, love, and commitment are all the same thing.
Oh God.
And they're not. Those are three ingredients that we get to use in structuring our relationship. And it's also not a zero-sum game, I think, is something a lot of people run into. Like, oh, if you're desiring, this is something that comes up in sessions a lot. If you're desiring someone else, then that must mean you desire me less.
Right.
Or I'm not enough, or whatever that is. Like there's 100 love points or there's 100 desire points. And so I have to take 5 away from you
to give it to somebody else.
And that's just not how it is. That's why I call my program now, I actually just changed the name. It was the non-monogamy blueprint. But kind of what we were talking about earlier, I want people to understand that it's bigger than that.
I don't know if you've ever heard of this phrase. It's called relationship dynamic relationships. You should try it. It's expansive. That's it. Expansive.
Oh, I've heard. I've heard whispering.
This woman I know, she taught me about it. She's so smart.
But it's I just really quickly, I call it the limitless love formula because it's about just expanding your understanding.
God, if we could have more human beings on this planet understand that there was limitless love, like could you imagine the fucking shit we could fix?
Yes.
Right. And
you're doing this.
Because something I grew up like understanding was, you can only love one person and nobody else. And if you loved somebody else while you had a spouse or whatever, then you don't love that person any longer.
Either or. That's it.
Yeah, it's just one person, and that's it.
And that's actually why, like, there's mixed thoughts in this space about this, but I am very specific about actually opening up your relationship. It can't necessarily save your marriage, but it could save your divorce.
Wow.
Ooh, I like looking at it like that.
It's we have this again, this false binary of we are together or we are apart.
Yeah.
When there is so much space in between those two, your relationship may be shifting and changing. We are ideally all always growing and shifting and changing. Like that's kind of the idea. We hope. I know. I always hate that. Like never change. Like fuck you. Yes, I will.
Change right now.
Absolutely, we're designed for that.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean it's not uncomfortable, but but understanding there's so many options between those two, because sometimes it'll be as simple as mismatched libidos.
Yeah.
That our libido changes during our lives.
Absolutely.
So,
medication, weight gain,
so many different
depression,
things, right?
just life,
Exactly.
age, anything, having a kid, good God. So one of your principles says, and I love it, you are not wrong for being curious about non-monogamy. In fact, it is healthy to seek out the relationship dynamic that is best for you. And I think that that's really beautiful, because when we get into a relationship, some people lose themselves and they lose the idea that their opinion, their desire, and their sexual self still fucking matters. And they don't have to cave or give and bend to one person's whim. What relationship dynamic works best for you should be discussed with your partner, especially if this is the person that you've chosen to spend your life with. Like you want to explore this. There's nothing wrong with you for wanting to explore it, or at least talk about it.
Yeah, learn about it. Might not be for you.
Do you have couples that come to you and start their sessions and learn about it and then decide we're going to stick with monogamy? Have you ever had a couple do that?
The short answer is yes. Again, it's like very few. But I do want to be clear that, meeting with me or taking one of my courses, learning about this does not suddenly make you non-monogamous.
No.
Doesn't mean you're going to open up your relationship tomorrow.
Right.
It means you're investigating. It means you're curious. It means you're checking stuff out. You're learning. You're expanding your horizon.
I want to know more.
Yeah.
I want to know what's out there, options.
Yeah.
I want to understand this on a deeper level. I love Justin Lee Miller. My fucking God. Shout out to Justin Lee Miller. I have such a brain crush on that guy. I got to meet him for the first time at a conference, and he is exactly who I wanted him to be.
I love that.
And we played arcade games together, and we got matching fake tattoos.
That's real friendship. That's real.
We're best friends for life. I really feel like when he did his huge study on fantasy, and he found that a majority of the population, regardless of age, race, gender, or sexual orientation, have fantasies about multi-partnered sex. Exploring that idea with your partner, whether it be to watch porn together, whether it be to just talk about it while you're in the bedroom, or whether it be to do some investigation on how you can include that in your relationship. I think everyone needs to understand that if the majority of the population is having this fantasy, you and your partner are both. Kevin and I came together one day, and he out of the blue was like, "What kind of porn do you watch?" And I was like, what?
Coffee's not even done. What
the fuck? And we ended up finding out that we both had the same fantasies. This is 16 years into our relationship.
Yeah.
And like how we got that far without having this conversation blows my mind.
Because we both had like a hesitation. We're like, okay, do I want to? This one is kind of like more on the extreme level.
Yeah.
And you say it out loud, and they're like, "Oh yeah, me too."
Yeah.
Like
it's extremely intimate.
It's very
vulnerable,
and scary, right? Because what if your partner goes,
like, judge me? Yeah, right.
Well, what? Again, like back to we are taught nothing about what relationship actually is, and that it needs to be created actively as a safe space in which to fuck up, to make mistakes, to be messy.
Your next principle actually is kind of on that same level. Even if you prefer monogamy, learning all the tools that are required for ethical non-monogamy will still benefit your relationship.
100%.
Please, for the listener who's about to turn this off and say, I don't want to open my relationship, Ashley, stop trying to make fetch happen. What would you say to the person who's like, no, I am monogamous, that I can't, I have too much jealousy, or I could never watch my partner with somebody else, or I don't want my partner to think that I love them any less. Non-monogamy is not for me, Ashley. You better give me something right now or I'm going to turn it off. What can monogamist individuals learn from the ethical non-monogamy community?
Well, my question would be, would you like to not feel all those things that you just expressed to me? Or would you like to know how to turn them into tools for your own personal development? Because jealousy is my best friend. I mean, that bitch is uncomfortable. Like, I don't look forward to her visits, but she's become very useful in my life. And I didn't have tools to understand how to work with jealousy. I actually didn't really experience jealousy until adulthood. I had only experienced compersion, which I didn't have, the word back then. It's known as like the opposite of jealousy.
We love compersion here.
Love that. I like to define it.
Define it. Give me the definition, Allie.
What is it? Knows.
What is it?
It's commonly called the opposite of jealousy. It's basically when you experience joy or pleasure from your partner experiencing joy or pleasure with someone else.
Yeah.
We love compersion.
Exactly. We get it for our friends, right?
Yeah.
So why would we not get it for a partner who's the most important relationship in our life?
Dude, I have compersion constantly.
Yes.
Like yesterday, we had a birthday party, and like watching, I'm sure Mia watching Kevin and I like have all of our friends come over and people hugging us and bringing us gifts and like us running around with all these people. At some point in the day, you probably looked over and went, I'm so happy for my friends.
Yeah, totally.
You know what I mean? Like that. And you have that for friends all the time. Why can't we have that for our spouse? That's beautiful. So as a monogamist, you can learn how to navigate jealousy. What else can you do?
Jealousy can become a massive tool for personal growth by switching your understanding from seeing it as something you need to run away from and rather lean into, because it's actually giving you information. It's saying, hey, there's something here for you to look at. And I like to break jealousy down into 4 different types. There's 4 kinds of romantic jealousy. There's insecurity, within yourself. There's comparison or competition. There's fear of abandonment. And then there's distrust, which is like an insecurity in the relationship itself. So understanding which one is really, coming at you, and then understanding if it's something that is really for you to work on, or is it something for you to bring into the relationship to work on with your partner. It becomes an opportunity for intimacy, vulnerability, connection building, strengthening that bond. But we're so scared of being that vulnerable and that intimate because we're supposed to be everything to our partner and they're perfect and it's supposed to be great. And that fear and those moments are so precious.
Yeah.
And making sure you're cultivating that relationship to be a space where you can come in and go, hey, I fucked up. Hey, I'm having this experience. I want to work on it with you.
Yeah.
I want to lean into this and figure out how we can do it differently this time. I want to strengthen myself.
And jealousy is taught to us to be toxic. Like we're taught to be toxic when we feel jealousy.
Yeah.
I would say the behavior that is toxic, not the feeling.
No, not the feeling.
Right.
But like some people grow up and like, oh, I need to fucking flip out. And yell.
Oh, my
scream.
boyfriend's talking to another girl. I'm going to be the jealous girlfriend, right? I'm going to go
that
over
means
there.
I care.
Because that means,
exactly.
Well, he's not jealous of me, so he doesn't care about me. Like, exactly. You're exactly right, babe. Like, this is something society teaches us, especially in the media, that jealousy is something, the green-eyed monster, as they call it. We vilify jealousy. When in fact, we can be learning from jealousy.
Absolutely.
That's amazing. Okay, so what's another thing that monogamous people can take from this?
Again, open communication. Like we say, open relationships. Any relationship structure can be an open or a closed relationship. And what I mean by that, again, is leaning in, is learning how to have effective communication. There's a difference between being a good communicator and being an effective communicator. Okay, great. You can express what it is your needs are and your wants are because you've done the personal work. Fantastic. Step 1, does your partner actually understand what the fuck you're talking about? Have they like repeated it back, like literally been able to repeat it back to you? Because like, I'll tell you as myself, I'm a wordsmith. I love my words, my big juicy vocabulary words. And like, sometimes I am not an effective communicator. It doesn't get across, but my words sound so good. And it's like learning that they're so
we do like to use big words that make us sound smart.
We do.
Yeah. So again, it's like learning how to make sure those messages, what you're really trying to say and evoke, is actually getting across to your partner.
Yep.
Yeah. I think that it's important for individuals who still want that monogamous relationship, that one-on-one partner, that they understand that they can still have intimate relationships with other people. Because the word, again, we're going back to language, the word intimacy doesn't mean I'm naked in front of you and we fuck. That's not the definition of
You can do that completely without intimacy.
Without intimacy. As a matter of fact, some of the best have been without intimacy. But I think that when people think intimate, they think the lingerie department at Nordstrom's, because it's literally called intimates, but it's not. It's being vulnerable with another person, having these relationships, these friendships, relationships outside of your partner where you can feel 1000% safe and yourself and open to being able to talk to people. And I think that in our society, that's another problem that we have, is not explaining to people how to cultivate their other relationships.
Well, because again, we conflate physical and emotional intimacy as the same thing. Or, well, and this is why, speaking of other tools, why I like to get really specific with couples I work with to determine their hierarchy of exclusivity, both on the physical and sexual plane and on the emotional and romantic plane, because they're not the same thing. And people, just because you have a high need for exclusivity sexually doesn't necessarily mean you have a high need for exclusivity emotionally. And figuring out where you are and where your partner is on those planes helps you understand what your ideal relationship structure is to support those needs. Because again, one size fits all relationships rarely do.
Rarely.
Right.
Yeah. So we are going to take a quick break. When we come back, we are going to talk about your relationship blueprint. And I would love for you to break down the 4 phases of the invested relationship. We're also going to talk about a really cool study that was recently done on polyamory by Dr. Sheff. And then I am going to ask you how you walk couples through transitioning from monogamy to a completely different relationship dyad. We're also going to get into a little bit about the play. I want to talk about this sensual, exciting, cultivated, crafted, beautiful work that you do in LA. And then maybe telling our monogamous listeners what they can gain from going to a play party. We'll be back in just a moment, everybody. Join us.
Apart to entertain like me. Do the people whisper about you on the train like me, saying that you shouldn't waste your pretty face like me. And all the people say you can't wake up, this is not a dream. You're part of a machine, you are not a human being. With your face so made up, living on a screen. Lower self-esteem, so you run on gasoline. I think there's a flaw in my code.
Is your bedroom getting boring? Does your sex life feel stale? Or are you just looking for a fun date night activity? Aria has got you covered. Aria's carefully cultivated Choose Your Own Adventure box is like no subscription service you have ever encountered. You and your partner fill out a sexy questionnaire to help the intimacy experts tailor your boxes to your comfortability, range of sexual likes and dislikes, and create specialized scenes for both of you to enjoy. Each box is hand-curated with high-quality items to enhance your sexy scene and includes Spotify playlists, provides ideas for starting the scene, and encourages you to have boundaries, safe words, and aftercare. Throughout the process, your personal concierge will text and email you to get you excited for your sexy night in. Whether you are looking to increase your kink or just become closer to your partner, Aria has a box for you. Visit aria.fyi.com and use our code WYP15 at checkout for 15% off your first 3 months and try on a new side of your sensual self. That's WYP15. Aria, your playful mentor for all things sexy.
Oh, Maggie, give me one more chance. I swear I'll make everything right. Oh, Maggie, can I have this dance? Please stay. Hey, hey, tonight. Walking down Broadway in the blinding light. The city is ringing in my ears. Trying to work out how a few months turned into years. She cradles the young ones by the fireside.
Welcome back, fellow humans, to our full frontal episode. We are joined by Ally Iseman, who is the guru right now of ethical non-monogamy and reframing your relationship structure. We're talking about her website, Passport to Pleasure, and how to ethically, consensually, and bravely change your relationship dynamic by utilizing tools that she has graciously given you, and also using her worksheets. We love a worksheet, and using the I said it wrong earlier, but the Limitless Love, the 4 phases of Limitless Love. And when we were on break, when husband Kevin Weller was making us Known as Garden, unofficial sponsor, Known as Garden, we were talking about the relationship ratio. And I really feel like that is such a beautiful thing to bring up, especially to the listener who is still listening, bless your heart, but has absolutely zero desire to broach this subject with their partner, because they think that their relationship can't withstand any sort of shift. Can you explain the relationship ratio for me?
Absolutely. Thank you. It's a free worksheet that I offer through my site. And it's really a lovely exercise. Honestly, like I said, whether you're opening up or not, this is a very useful process to go through. And it helps couples get out of this false binary of what it means to be in a couple. And the way I phrase that is, if you're in a couple, you're actually already in a threesome. And what I mean by that,
All right.
Congratulations,
Congrats.
listener. You're all in a threesome.
You did it. You did it. And what I mean by that is there's you, there's your partner, and there's your relationship. And really understanding that each of those individual entities deserves just as much effort and attention as the other really gets people out of this like pitted against each other dynamic that they can have when struggles or obstacles are being met. And so this worksheet walks you through really an expanded, 360 understanding of reciprocity to open up your relationship. Mm-hmm. Even if you still decide that you would like to be monogamous, you can have an open monogamous relationship.
Yeah. And you can actually get to know your partner and communicate with them better, and understand really who they are as a person and who they are in the relationship. I think it's really interesting. Also, we were talking about cheating, and Mia, you asked a really good question. Will you ask it again?
Yeah. When we were talking about cheating and talking about like defining what cheating is, I was curious how Ally would go about helping somebody who's on like opposite sides of the spectrum from their partner of what they believe cheating would count as, I guess, and like how do you get to work to be, if you want to save your relationship, how do you make that happen?
Mm-hmm. So if someone says porn is cheating and the other partner's like
no.
fucking someone is cheating, like those are two very opposite ends. Watching people fuck on a computer versus physically going and having a sexual relationship with somebody without your partner's knowledge, those are two completely different things. How do you get
like bridge that gap?
How do you
there.
Perfect way to say it. How do you bridge that gap?
Well, first I would ask, we haven't had any conversation about consent here.
Yeah.
So is cheating, it's still cheating even if you're like, yeah, it's cool? Or is the act of doing so without your awareness or without your consent, is that what makes it cheating? So if we can agree on that, then we're starting to understand that cheating is about deceit. It's not necessarily a specific act. And then we can get really into...
wow.
Exactly.
Jesus. Wow.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That's how we find the middle ground, because those boundaries, if we're talking about defining it by porn or necessarily, having sexual intercourse with someone else, those are boundaries we're discussing now. And again, like we talked about earlier, boundaries aren't these walls, right? They're these sort of rubbery edges of our comfort zone, if you will.
And
they're set in Jell-O. They're subject to change.
They're subject to change.
Yeah.
Gelatin-free gelatin, exactly. With discussion and with with the agreement to lean in and get a little bit curious about where that distinction is coming from for you. Why do you feel that way? More questions leading to more questions. That's how we get to the really good stuff, right?
And it's all about really like you as a person, your attachment style. It's about you, what relationships you've been in the past, what framework you have as an adult for what a relationship looks like, how you feel, how you want to feel. And we don't have these questions. We don't have these conversations with our partners very often. Like, how do you want to feel?
I mean, how are you going to know unless you talk about it?
Right.
And get a little uncomfortable, right?
That's why everyone, unofficial sponsor, therapy.
Expansive relationship therapy.
Expansive relationship therapy.
Because again, even in that conversation, it's still, if it's a, well, I want this and a you want that, we're never going to get anywhere. So what relationship are we in? What is the relationship structure we're in? Is it serving us, and are we serving the relationship? So if that's not even happening, we got to start there first.
Yeah.
So understanding that you're already in a threesome, babies.
I'm going to ask you a hot question, hot
Get
take,
it.
hot
All
take.
right.
Are you ready for this? Okay, I don't even know if I'm ready for this. Do you think the divorce rate in America is as high as it is because people aren't being ethically non-monogamous?
They aren't being honest with themselves and each other. And it's actually a lot higher than the stats that are available, because the stats that are available are looking at 40-year periods of time, which is not a lifetime. So y'all aren't going to like this one. But if you actually use the stats the way they are for first, second, and third time marriages over the course of an actual lifetime, so let's call it 60 years.
Okay.
It's 98%.
Whoa.
98%. We'll call it failure is the term that's being used, but yes,
Get the
in the
fuck
relationship.
out of here.
So,
Where's that sad trombone? Oh my God.
yeah.
Really?
And that's, again, let's be specific. That is for relationships that, result in divorce. And that's not taking into consideration
People who
fulfillment,
don't get married.
happy.
Yeah.
Well, exactly. That
Yeah.
as well. And then people who literally financially can't get out of their marriage. There's, financial abuse happening or whatever it is.
Yeah.
There's a lot of other variables, but all that to say is this one size fits all approach is not working.
No.
Because we're not a one size fits all species. There are structures that are more successful than this. And then it's about finding out where you fit into that.
God, that is crazy. That is nuts, man. I'm
words.
speechless at this point in my life. It takes a lot of work to be in a healthy, communicative, balanced relationship. It takes a lot of effort. It is a full-time job, and it very well should be.
Yeah.
It impacts every area of your life. This isn't an isolated thing.
This is the person you're going to spend the most amount of time with, other than yourself.
You don't just set it and forget it. Like
this is not rice-a-roni, okay? This is a marriage.
Like it's constant work.
It's constant work.
Or constant effort, I should say, not work, because that makes it sounds bad, but
It
like
could be like work, like WERK, like work.
but yeah, like effort and putting time and energy
reaching
into
out.
it.
I was just telling them the story about Gottman and how he's like, you want to turn towards your partner. You want to do things that make your partner realize that they matter.
Yeah.
And a couple months ago, I handed you an orange and asked you to peel it. And I was so afraid to hand you this orange because I was like,
you thought I wouldn't do it?
Because I was like, if he doesn't do it, that means we're getting a divorce. I handed you the orange and I was like, baby, will you peel this orange for me? And you're like, of course, baby. You want an orange? Are you hungry for an orange? And I was like, and you're like,
I got you.
What's the matter? Like, do you not want the orange? Like, what's going on? But like these tiny little moments of Mia had brought up a really great study, the bird study, where a partner goes, hey, look at that bird. And the partner goes, oh, wow, what a cool bird. Or the partner's like, ignores you completely. Right? Like, you have to be invested in your relationship. And if
It's the little things.
It's the little things.
It
and
is.
sometimes the
It's
little
so
things
true.
turn into big things. And I
Resentment does that.
right? Resentment is a fucking bitch, man. If you want to talk about something that shouldn't be in your relationship, bring on the jealousy, get rid of the fucking resentment. That is an evil thing to have in your relationship.
Who was it that came on and said she worked with couples, and she said that not complacency, but
Contempt.
contempt. No, it was like that couples that are just not willing to work. Like, or no, apathy. I think
Apathy.
is what.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah,
God.
that's
Like
a
the person, the one person in the
Yeah.
and they're just
Great.
like, I don't care. Like,
Yeah.
you know, if they come in and they're both ready to make an effort, then she's like, I can work with this one way or the other. You know?
Yeah.
That's why I love the possibility, again, like expansive relating. There's so much more possibility than just we're together or we're apart.
Yeah.
Right.
How are we
Those
together?
so
What are we
that's
doing?
Such a strong way to look at something, and such a binary. And we do this in society. And we create these binaries of either we're either monogamous or we're divorced. It's like, wait, hold the fucking phone for a second. I love your principle that says non-monogamy can't save your marriage, but it could save your divorce. And that is where you give people this limitless love worksheet, and you have them fill out this worksheet.
It's a lot more than a worksheet. It's a 12-week program.
12-week program.
So speaking of work,
And you go through the 4 phases of limitless love and understanding that relationships can have, that you can move those boundaries. The things that you thought were immovable objects may actually not be. Can we go through the 4 phases of limitless love? So what is an inventory?
inventory, it's important to start out understanding how the fuck you even got here, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, let's do that. Let's investigate that. So, you know, if someone hasn't gone through my what the fuck do you want worksheet, which helps you understand your big why, because again, if you want to do this, why is a pretty important thing to understand before you get started, because it informs everything you're going to do. Then if they haven't done the relationship ratio, we start there again as well, because we want to figure out where they're starting from. Is this a stable base? Are we getting ready to open up and explore, or is there more to do first?
Sure.
Right.
And then
That
doing
makes
a real-
sense.
So smart.
Yeah, that
God
makes
damn.
a lot of sense.
Yeah. And then that takes us to what's basically a pattern assessment. Like, okay, let's explore your relationship history, what's worked, what didn't, what curiosities do you have now, what have you tried that you don't want, you know, real whole inventory, because those patterns are what's going to tell us where we really need to look at shifting things a bit. Because mistakes and patterns are 2 different things. A mistake needs to be able to happen in your relationship, because
happen all
that's
the
how
time.
we learn. But we're building this culture of like cancel culture, where you're supposed to somehow be born knowing everything from every perspective
Right.
ever throughout
And
time.
Before it ever
always.
happened.
You're done.
So you're not
Which
even
is
allowed to say
ridiculous.
something
No.
yesterday that 10 years from
Yeah.
now is going to be a problem. And they come back to today and they're like, by the way, you said this 10 years ago. And
They're
it's like,
like,
you're done. You're done. You're done.
Yeah. So again, determining, okay, these are patterns. And that's a behavioral issue, and it's basically the same mistake that keeps happening over and over. That's something for us to look at. A mistake is fine. What did you learn from that mistake? Da-da-da-da. Patterns, that's where the work's got to start, so we can make sure we don't get the same results over and over.
right.
And so that's basically inventory is. Let's get us a real solid understanding of how we even got to this point, so now we can start moving forward.
And you were in school to become a marriage and family therapist, but recognizing the heteronormativity and the monogamist heavy focus of marriage and family. A lot of people ask why didn't you get your master's in marriage and family therapy? And I'm like, because I don't want to be a marriage and family therapist. Like, there literally was no classes on
None.
sex ed,
Nothing
at all.
Oh my God. Yeah. That's
Like,
insane.
and I was like, the fuck? How am I? What am I? That's so much of a marriage is what?
Well, not in America, as we talked about
Not
earlier.
here.
Right. So what's the design portion?
Yeah. So the design is where we get into uncovering your hierarchy of exclusivity. What are your needs? What are your partner's needs? Not just in a general sense, physically or sexually, emotionally or romantically. How exclusive do you need those needs to be? And I really map it out literally on like a chart. And that will help you align with what I call your IRS, your ideal relationship structure. Because each of these relationship structures, whether it's an open relationship, you know, hierarchical polyamory, swinging, et cetera, they all have varying degrees of exclusivity in both of those areas. So understanding what your needs are and your partner's needs are will help you determine what, you know, template in a sense to at least start with. And if you're close together, great, easy. You know, you'll both be really, you know, happy with this one. We'll start here and we'll start exploring, but you could be far apart and not know it. And so really dialing in on where the overlap is, so you can pick you can pick a dynamic that works for both of you enough to at least get started.
The Venn diagram.
The Venn diagram, exactly.
Love a Venn diagram.
Exactly.
Yeah, you got it. The build. What do we do there?
So now you've got your IRS. You're like, cool, we are swingers. What does that mean? So now we're going to start looking at what does that mean? And we're going to build your relationship agreement. This is kind of a first draft of a document that's really going to serve you for ideally the rest of your life, which ideally is how long this relationship structure will last for you. So it is a living, breathing document that goes through everything from, current boundaries, curiosities, communication practices, both with your partner and then to and about potential new partners, safer sex practices, co-parenting where applicable, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So you're really literally putting it all down on paper. I recommend literally writing it down on paper. It's a different part of your brain than just typing it out. Have a digital version too.
Yeah.
But that way you can make notes and scratch stuff out, and it's like much more exciting.
Yeah. I know. I love writing. I love handwriting things. Yeah, for sure.
And we really hone in on, okay, let's get a draft here in order so we know what this, IRS is for you and the agreements that you're both making to keep this thing alive and thriving.
And then maintain. Obviously, we want to maintain this. We want to communicate. How often are you having people check in?
Well, that's actually a part of the relationship agreement. There's a review and renewal portion that you'll agree to. And whether that's, weekly, monthly, quarterly, what have you, I definitely wouldn't recommend less than quarterly. Annually, depending where you're at in life and, what relationship structure and what work you've done so far, there are people that can apply for, but I recommend at least quarterly, where you're really sitting down, you're setting aside quiet time, you're putting down all the distractions. This is not something you're doing on the drive to the opera or whatever. People go to the opera still. I don't know where that came from.
No one's taking me to the opera.
I know you guys go to plays though.
I do go to plays without you.
It's just less musical
That's okay.
opera.
Thank you for doing that.
Spoken opera.
Mia could go with you.
But maintaining.
Maintain. So it's, okay, we're now actually trying out this relationship agreement. We're actually in the field. We're gonna explore and see what's possible, and then we're gonna look at it. And that all happens through what I call your action plan. So maintain is building this action plan to test out this relationship agreement and then fine tune with me, things that are working, things that aren't, things we didn't think we wanted, and now we do, and we can incorporate that so that you guys get comfortable understanding what it feels like to work on this thing and really what it feels like to fuck up safely.
I can only imagine in things like anything under the E&M umbrella how many things could come up that you would not expect.
Have no clue.
No matter how many times you tried to say,
me included,
like, I'm going to look ahead and I'm going to try to think like, okay, this could happen, that could happen. Let's talk about that. But there's so many things that will be so unexpected.
Do you feel like,
and you're going to be like, what the fuck do I do here?
What do I do now?
And there is structure. There is, we can put quite a bit of structure down on this relationship. And that's my goal is let's try and think of all the different things possible, right? And let's make agreements so that you have, again, those boundaries within which you can go, oh shit, that's different. Wasn't expecting that.
Yeah.
Might need to adjust that, or that really worked.
That came up, and I was not expecting that.
That was great.
Or someone going, let's do that again, and someone else going, I don't ever want to do that again.
Yes.
Like that was not for me at all. And then within that, exploring, okay, well, why didn't you like it, and why did you like it, right? And then saying, is there any space where he can go and do that again without you, or is this off the table entirely? Or let's go back to the Venn diagram. Is there anything that we can find that would meet in the middle for the two of you?
Yeah.
And this is, I'll just use my personal experience as far as one of the many wonderful things that I love about having an expansive relationship dynamic or being non-monogamous is that if I have something that I'm not interested in or physically incapable of doing or whatever it is,
you're not a mermaid?
Yeah, I know, it's weird. I freaking love that my partner can still experience that. I feel a part of it because I'm like, go get it, baby. Like, maybe I can even be there. That's my favorite.
Can I walk?
I love being able to facilitate my partner having their needs met, even if it's not literally with me. To me, it adds to what we're building. And the same inversely, if I'm needing something that my partner doesn't want to or can't provide or whatever it is, for me, knowing that they experience the same, like the compersion and etc. that I do in that same situation, like it strengthens our bond for me.
Does it always have to be sexual?
Absolutely not. But if it is, I like to be specific. First of all, non-monogamy is not exclusively about sex.
Yep.
And it can be for some. It is okay to be a consensual slut and have a long-term secure relationship. You can
Another
have
t-shirt.
both.
There you go.
Yep. Consensual slut.
Where my consensual sluts at.
I
Like
that.
that's okay. Again, like love, sex, commitment, these are 3 different things.
Yeah.
Your partner wanting or being curious even to explore someone else or a different experience, different dynamic, does not detract from you. There are not 100 love points or 100 sex points. You know, this is not a finite zero-sum game here. It's additive.
So, how often do you feel like couples come to you thinking they are going to, I have pepper in my throat. Thank you, Nona. Thinking that they are going to, okay, we want to swing. And then you break down their inventory, their design, their build, and their maintain. And it actually turns out that what they really want is more of, oh my God, the word is escaping me, where they don't want to swing. They don't want to be there in the room with their partner. They actually want to go out and experience other relationships.
More of an open relationship.
More open.
Or together
Yeah.
or separate?
Separate.
Separate. Okay.
Yeah.
More of an open relationship.
What happens when one partner was really hoping like we could do this together and the other partner, it turns out, is kind of like, well, no, like I really want to do this separately. Is there a Venn diagram in that situation?
Now I'm like having
I know you're having a
surrogate pepper.
sympathy pepper. Sympathy pepper.
To me, there's always a Venn diagram, as you put it, because that's the point of getting out of you versus me and relationship.
Yeah.
What is the relationship structure that's going to serve each of you? Because I have worked with people where one person is polyamorous and the other person isn't. And we get them to a secure place where they recognize that there's no subtraction from their relationship and their dynamic in order to pursue this. This is just a full expression of their partner. And they want that full expression of their partner and they want the full expression of them. I've had people come in like, I don't want other partners, but my partner does. I'm like, great. Then don't have other partners.
Yeah.
So let's get you to
You don't have to do that.
This isn't tit for tat. I mean, but it's uncovering what, again, your needs are, their needs are. That doesn't mean they're going to be the same, but that doesn't mean they're in opposition to each other necessarily.
Right. That's fair.
Yeah.
What would you, why use a guide? Why use a person? Why use Ally instead of just transitioning, reading a book, right? The ethical slut, right? We love them. Bless the ethical slut. If you have not read that book and you are considering non-monogamy, please do so.
Great one to start with.
Why use a guide like yourself? What is the benefit of that?
Well, I mean, I like to say this, by all means, don't. Please spend 8-9+ years like I did and tons of time, money, and heartache figuring it out on your own. Please, if that's what you would like to do, go for it.
If you like torture, you want to torture yourself
if you
a little
like
bit.
wasting
You
your
are
time,
an
energy, and
activist.
resources, then don't use a guide. And why I use the term guide too specifically, like I'm not a therapist, very intentionally, like I am going to make you uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Like that is my job. I want you to be uncomfortable throughout pretty much the entire time we work together because that means you're growing.
Yep.
And I don't like coach. I will use coach reluctantly and no disrespect meant. But to me, a coach is like, yeah, they've played the game. They're pro, like they've done this, but they're on the sidelines.
Yeah.
I'm a guide because I'm out there. I'm in this with you. I am living this life too. And that means I'm also still learning. So I appreciate that you called me a guru, but I most certainly am not. I am learning as well. I have 8-9 years experience on, anyone I'm going to
with you. I think a guru is also always learning.
Okay.
I feel like Gandhi is a guru.
And this is why we talk about definitions.
And Gandhi is Gandhi would say that he is always learning. I think that gurus know that there is never an end point for education. And I feel like that is a beautiful way to look at what you're doing, is that you're always learning something and you are adapting what you learn to help the people that come to you.
Yeah.
I think that
I'm a head start, basically.
If
you want to be more efficient,
you're
There you
the
go.
tutor,
Yes.
right? No. How would you? So, have you ever had one person from a relationship, like one piece of the relationship, come to you and say, "I'm thinking of opening my relationship. How do I broach this subject with my partner?"
yes, absolutely.
What would be the answer if there's a human right now listening, going, "Okay, this is my sign." This is your sign. If this is their sign to talk to their partner about potentially opening up their relationship, what advice could you give to them?
Well, and I'll even get folks that aren't as committed even as that. They're like, I think I do. I'm hearing about this and it's interesting. And then I'm like, and like, what does that mean? And all this. So let's get them to, you want to have this conversation. And that's why I have my what the fuck do you want worksheet, because your big why is the most important thing. Okay, that's great that you want to have it. Why? Once I understand the why, now we can format the conversation.
Yeah.
And really getting them to a place where, ideally, I'm happy to be a mediator for that conversation as well.
Yeah.
It's gonna potentially be quite uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And so being able to hold that discomfort.
Once you say that out loud, it's not coming back.
Yeah, and I've heard a lot of
But that's why the why is important.
The why is the most
because your
important
partner
part.
is going to hear through their filter, because it's a very vulnerable, scary thing for both of you. So if you can start with that authenticity of, hey, I want to talk to you about something and I'm fucking terrified.
Yeah. I've heard
both know you're in that same space.
I've heard people use the term, how do I convince?
Yeah, absolutely
partner?
not.
Jesus.
Absolutely
And
not.
when I hear that, I'm like, okay,
No.
you need to back way up.
You probably just need to not have that conversation.
Yeah,
Like, you
because
need
I'm
to have
like,
a
you're
different conversation
already
with
looking,
yourself.
you're already
That
looking
is-
at
that
a
is not
bad angle. You
Yeah.
don't convince
No.
somebody,
No.
but it's like, you have that conversation and see
Yeah.
where you're both at,
Yeah.
and then go from there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and making sure they understand, at least when you're first broaching this, this is not an ultimatum.
Right.
We don't do that.
Mm-hmm.
This is not a convincing. I think something we've really lost, the art of conversation used to be about sharing ideas.
Yeah.
Now it's
Yeah.
about changing people's minds and
Right.
convincing people.
Instead of collaborating, it's
Yeah.
all about convincing.
And
right.
perfect word,
Yeah.
because this conversation is about collaborating with your partner on seeing what's possible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're bravely stepping into something that you might have no idea that they've actually been thinking about it too.
Right.
So let's assume the best. And that's another key thing. Assuming, I think this is actually from the Gottmans as well, assuming the best of your partner.
Yes. Yes.
Assume
Yes.
they'll assume the best of you, assume the best of them, assume the best outcome of this conversation. You don't get to, determine that necessarily, but assume that, so you're coming from that place.
Yeah.
Be willing to be vulnerable. Be willing to be messy.
Yeah.
And be curious above all else. Come from questions.
Yeah.
Have space in this conversation for your partner's reaction
Yeah.
as well.
And you take time on it too, because you don't you're
yeah.
not going to do this in one sitting.
You don't sit down at dinner and say, I think I want to fuck other people.
Yeah, right.
I've already purchased a ticket to a sex party. We're going this
Yeah,
weekend.
we're going
no,
this weekend.
absolutely not.
Yeah.
Absolutely
Love
not.
this. This is a great idea.
Love this for us.
Yeah.
Speaking of sex parties, you sit on the board of one of LA's most exclusive and perfectly curated sensual play parties. I kind of want to call it a sex club, but also I don't want to demean it by calling it a sex club.
Interesting. What is that about for you?
Have you ever been to Club Joy?
I am familiar.
That is where that comes from. I hate
Sex clubs are very different environments than sex parties.
Yeah.
We are a sex positive community.
Great.
That host sensually curated nightlife events.
Nice. Love that.
That's what I'm
want to
interested
go.
in.
I
there
want
you
to
go.
go to these sensually curated nightlife events. I don't want to ever go to Joy ever again. Please don't make me go.
I would never. I kind of operate a consent-based lifestyle, so I would not be forcing you to do
It's
anything.
just so funny when we've talked to people about joy. They're like, oh,
Oh, God.
and it's almost seems like we've gone to the bottom. And I don't want to talk crap on Club Joy, but they we went to the bottom of the barrel as far as what's out there.
Yeah. And I mean, to be fair, these events, Kinky Rabbit is another one. Oh God, what's the one I'm
That's
trying
an
to think of?
extremely expensive one.
It's so
There's
expensive.
Sanctum.
Sanctum, that's the one.
yeah.
That's the one. A friend of ours, Sir Rucifer, goes to these parties as a performer and does.
I am familiar.
Another person who knows Rucifer.
Yeah.
Shout out to
Small world.
Rucifer.
Yeah.
I'm actually having lunch with him on Wednesday. I'll tell him that you say hello.
I don't know if he'll know my name as well, but who knows?
But I know him.
But I know who he is.
I know his work.
We're all kind of circling each other some
Yeah.
way or another.
We're
in
You'll-
this
yeah,
space.
We're
right.
all orbiting in the same area. Talk to us a little bit about what it's like, what the play is like.
Sure. The play exists at the intersection of art and sex. We like to
fucking
say.
love that.
Yeah, it's very much based on self-expression in a space that is all inclusive and welcoming of the any version of self-expression. So that looks like performances. We're a very theatrical event. When you step into our space, it is an all-inclusive event. That means entertainment, beverages, nibbles, everything you need is available. It is a 7-hour math. Doors open at 8.
Wow.
They close at 10. No one gets in after the doors are closed. This is a closed container. We're not going to be halfway into the evening and then somebody's like, all right, everybody. Like, no, we're creating this intentionally together because, again, we're a community, right? Yeah. So we do a welcome talk. I'm our consent and communication specialist. And what that looks like at the party is I'm our consent fairy. So I walk us through what that means and feels like and all that. And then we do an intimacy exercise so that we're all making sure everyone's grounding at the same level because we all came in during those first 2 hours. That's kind of our happy hour. We have welcome angels that bring you into the space. We don't just go, Godspeed. We actually walk you through so you can see everything that's available to you that night.
Yeah.
Oh,
they introduce you to someone. So even if you're coming on your own or this is your first party ever or your first party with us, even if you don't know anyone there, they're going to introduce you. So you start by getting to know someone.
Wow.
And then, like I said, then that goes into our welcome talk, consent talk, and our intimacy exercise. So we're all connecting, right? And then we have our performances. And our performances have little mini intermissions in between because, again, we don't want it to just be like, all right, cute shoes, want to fuck? Like, we want other people. I mean, look, if that's your line, go for it. But we want people to have all kinds of different sensory experiences to talk about and share so that it's not just so mission oriented, for lack of a better, or missionary. Or what a dog is out oriented, whatever it is.
Oh, damn it.
And then, so we'll have about 3, we'll call them main stage performances. And our performers mostly are from within our community. And that's anything from, world-class touring performance artists to, amateurs who have a fantasy that they've always wanted to live or experience. And we pair them with our erotic producers to bring that to life in either a performative way or an experiential way. Because we're kind of like Burning Man. You're not going to see everything. There's going to be little pop-up experiences throughout the evening as well. So after those main stage performances, it takes us to about maybe 11:30, and then the open playtime, if you will, begins. And each of our parties has a different theme. And, you're welcome to dress to theme or in something that makes you feel sexy. And then, the night proceeds until 4 a.m. And that is the end. That is the end of the play.
Do you change locations every time?
We do. We have some, what I would call our home base location. And then we do have a smattering of mansions that we'll do mansion parties.
Fantastic.
Yeah. We like to dress a theme to whatever venue we're going to be in.
I love that.
Yes.
Yeah.
How can the monogamous listener, I love you listeners. So
we do.
much.
I do too.
How can a monogamous couple attend one of these parties? What can they gain from? Because I feel like a lot of my listeners specifically have messaged me and said that's probably as far as I would go is going to a play party or a sex party, because for them that's voyeurism. They may even dabble in a little bit of exhibitionism, safest and legalist way to do so.
Yes.
And for them that's going to be how they get to that Venn diagram. One partner wants to experience sex with other people and one is absolutely saying to the fuck no. How can we bridge this diagram? And it's going to one of these play parties. And what would you say to the listener who is considering attending a play party, who has never stepped outside of the monogamous circle and who this might feel like the safest way to do so?
Well, I want to say 2 things. One, you do not have to be non-monogamous to attend play parties, and you do not have to attend play parties if you're non-monogamous. These are 2 different things.
Facts.
We have plenty of monogamous couples that will come to our events, and they'll either just, come for the drinks and conversation and performances and then head home. Maybe they'll play with each other while they're there. Maybe they'll, discover that actually based on the agreements they've made ahead of time that they're willing to maybe try bringing a third person in. But there is no expectation of you're supposed to XYZ at these events, other than know your boundaries, speak to them, and honor everyone else's.
And enjoy yourself, right?
Yeah. So all that to say, the other point is, regardless of a relationship dynamic, but, definitely including monogamous folks, if you are going to go to an event like this, make sure you have a very important conversation leading up to and literally at the event as well. And that's called your DIBs, your desires, your intentions, and your boundaries.
DIB.
or bids, depending on what order you want to talk about them in. But those desires, intentions, and boundaries for that evening specifically may be different for you. They may change, the week before, the day of, etc. So know it's an ongoing conversation, and it's very, very important to have ahead of time. Have it when you're talking about maybe going before you've bought your tickets. Have it after you've bought your tickets, because now it's real.
Yeah.
Have it on the drive to the event. Have it at the event. Be checking in constantly. And also get support. Like I didn't tell you this yet. I just made available a new offering on my site for this very reason. So I had a lot of people coming to me going like, we want to do this, but we don't know what to expect. We're so nervous. Like, I don't know if I want to do XYZ, and like, what do we even wear and all this stuff. And I'm like, I can talk to you about that, but you don't have to go through my whole framework to do that. Right. So I now offer.
This is not a 12-week class.
Yeah, this is not. No. Exactly.
Let's break this down for you real quick.
Exactly. I mean, I recommend that as well if you're thinking about opening up, but this is a separate thing. So I now offer what I call play party prep, private concierge sessions. So you can work with me directly. I will literally help you pick your outfit or outfits out.
Oh my God.
We will talk about what this space is and what this space is not, how to approach people. There are very specific, what is the word? The very specific, etiquette. Thank you. I was like, it's an E. It's very specific etiquette when you're in this space, and your first impression you only get once.
Yeah.
So if you don't show up in the space the right way, you could have lost a community for life.
Yeah.
If you do it the right way, you could find a space that you can uncover so much beauty and depth with your partner.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that I personally think, because like I said, a lot of my listeners are like, I think I'm just going to go to a play party or a sex party. And I'm like, I absolutely feel like that is a great place to stick your toe in the water of opening your relationship, because you can see other people
in the environment,
being there,
meet other
talking,
people,
getting conversation started, that community, and that sex positive community, and doing so at a place that is held in high regard, right? Not doing it at a place. Not going to a strip club, like that's completely fucking different. That's not what we're talking about.
Not at all.
Like, not in any shape or form.
Yeah.
I mean, and I love a strip club. I mean, shout out to the library.
I love the library.
Unofficial
love the
sponsor.
library.
Unofficial sponsor, the library.
Well, and on that, I want to take a moment as well to make sure people understand that there are different relationship dynamics. There are different personalities, we'll call them, of play spaces.
Oh, yeah.
Not every play party is the same. And there are also different sex positive communities. So if you go to a kink party, it's not necessarily the same as a play party. And people will use the term play party to mean sex party in some communities, but it's actually not necessarily the same.
Talking about language again.
Yeah. About to. So in some spaces, a sex party means, yes, everything all the way through to penetrative sex is, welcome.
Yeah.
A play party in some communities means no penetration.
No penetration at all.
So understanding what community you're stepping into so that you know the language you're using and you're not going to unknowingly break rules.
Right. You're not going to
super important.
You're not going to walk up to one of the artists and be like, hey, can we fuck? And they'd be like, whoa.
Excuse me?
Like, that doesn't happen here. Thank you very much.
Exactly.
You
And
need to
that,
leave. Yeah.
like, the word gets around. It's a community. Even if there's different, communities, we all, to some extent, know each other.
Yeah.
So if you're rolling up to, your average swingers party, but you're like fully decked out and ready for some hardcore BDSM,
You've got
that's a different space
in your mouth as you enter the front door.
It's a different space. And it's not, again, don't mishear shame in what I'm saying.
No.
It's understanding the spaces that you're in.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's being appropriate.
Everything is welcome.
Yeah.
Just knowing where those things are is important.
Yeah. I want to circle back to my stat of the day, because sometimes I forget, and I did not today. Are you super proud of me?
So proud of you.
Thank you. Thank you. So like,
Good job.
Love a praise.
Flowers.
Okay, so we talked about earlier how sex positivity can change a culture, and that sex positivity in certain cultures like Sweden, God, I love Sweden, the Netherlands, Switzerland, Spain, and Brazil have some of the highest rates of sex positivity. They also have some of the lowest rates of STIs, teen pregnancy, and sexual assault. Is there a correlation? No, actually, I think it's a fucking causation. Thank you so much. When we talk about research, that's a cause. We talked about how studies show in other countries, people have up to 70 times more sex than Americans. What percentage of Spanish people from Spain said that they were sexually satisfied? And
Let's
we
see
had
who.
69%, 75%, and 73%. Husband Kevin Weller.
Did I nail
you
it?
are the winner. You didn't nail it. It's 90%.
Whoa. You know
Wow.
who did nail it? The people of Spain.
Yeah, they did. Shout out to Spain.
Shout out to Spain.
Shout out to Spain. Currently looking up how to move to Spain.
Right.
Because they are open sexually, they also are more welcoming of the polyamorous and the consensually non-monogamous
And
community.
they party all
and
night
they
long.
party all the fucking
All
time. And they
fucking
are
night long.
actually more open to sex before marriage.
Yeah.
And they have comprehensive sexual health education. The people of Spain,
So
if you're
can
listening
we-
and you're from Spain, I love you. Te amo, mi amigos. From I don't know what from is. Oh my god, my friends are gonna be so mad. Sorry, Robert. I'm sorry. Robert's gonna be so angry with me. But I love you, and I think that it's important to note that when a country is more sexually open and accepting, that community fucking thrives. And
Yeah.
I have seen recently more talk, and it's probably because I'm in the sex positive sphere. That's probably why. But do you, before we go, feel like ethical non-monogamy and polyamory is getting its day in the sunshine? Massachusetts just passed a law protecting polyamorous families. And there's actually recently been a study that was done on polyamorous families. I cannot believe this because there's not a lot of studies that are done on this shit. But Dr. Elizabeth Sheff did a study on the polyamorous next door, conducting a study over the period of 15 years, a comprehensive research project on polyamorous families with children. And she found, this is fucking incredible, children in polyamorous families benefit from having multiple adults who provide care, attention, and resources. She also addresses the common misconception that polyamory is harmful to children. She found absolutely
The
zero
opposite.
evidence
Yeah.
of any harm being done to children when polyamory is present. And she did a 15-year study. This was not a one and done, bang, flash in a pan. This was a longitudinal
That's so
fucking
cool.
study.
People always say it takes a village to raise a kid. Like, go
Yep.
get one then.
Go get
Yeah.
a fucking village,
That's what
bro.
we used to do. I mean, I was over
Yeah.
on Easter Island over the New Year holiday.
Oh.
And there's still a communal culture there.
Yeah.
So when you have a child, you know, with a partner or whomever, that child is the child of the community.
Right.
They are raised not just by you and your partner, but by the whole community. And there's pros and cons.
Of
Like in the
course.
same way that any relationship dynamic can be healthy or unhealthy.
Right.
It's the same thing.
But also, think about what a beautiful example you're setting for your children to show them how love can be everywhere and love can be limitless.
Yes. And all the skills that you're learning on the expansive relationship journey, the open communication, et cetera, they're getting to witness that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're getting to see you.
I think it's absolutely fucking beautiful what you do. So we're going to close out. Please, Ally, tell us where we can find you.
Thank you. My website is passporttopleasure.com, and that's the number 2, passporttopleasure.com. It's the same on all social, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, all the things. And you can reach me at hello@passporttopleasure.com as well.
That's fantastic. And I love her website. It's absolutely stunning and gorgeous. All those worksheets she talked about, and signing up for this 12-week journey to look deeply at your relationship and whether or not you and your partner are ready or at a stage in your relationship that you are ready to open it up and be receptive to the limitless amount of love that we have in the world and the universe.
Yeah, if you want to determine your relationship ratio first, that's again the big one, either the big Y and or the relationship ratio. It's passporttopleasure.com/big Y or passporttopleasure.com/ratio.
Nice. Perfect. And these are easy worksheets that people can just fill out.
Super easy, and they're pretty. I think they're pretty.
They are actually really beautiful. You can find us at What's Your Position Podcast on Instagram and TikTok. You can email us at What's Your Position Podcast @gmail.com. I love you all so much, my listeners. I hope that you enjoyed this conversation as much as I did with Ally. We appreciate your time, your drive, your effort, your beauty as a human. I truly, truly heart you. Big hearts, big love. Remember, everybody, stay safe, stay kind, and stay sexy.
I come through. You left before I come through. We took the hills into the trees. I hit my head and bit the leaves. You left before I come through. You left before I shed my little soul for you. And I sail up into noise. I'm a man of many tricks and tools and joy. With a battery, a guild, a witch to boy.
What's Your Position podcast represents the opinions of Ashley Weller and her guests. The content here should not be taken as medical advice and is intended for education and entertainment purposes only. Views and opinions expressed in the podcast are our own and do not represent that of our places of work. While we make every effort to ensure the information we are sharing is accurate, we welcome any comments, suggestions, or correction of error. Stay safe, stay kind, and stay sexy.
At least we